Hi, I'm Tim Weaver from CMVG. We're here to talk about the new and exciting Dawnguard trailer. I'm here with Dan Dawkins, Editor-in-Chief on PSN3.
Hello.
And Andy Hartup, Editor of Xbox World.
Hello.
So, guys, give us your expertise. What's your first impressions? Are you excited? What do you make of it?
I think it's fantastically exciting. I was a sort of Skyrim denier, but I got into it just before Christmas. I've now played for 120 hours. I still feel like I don't understand that much about the universe and the world. It's that big and deep a game. This trailer's thrilling.
So it seems that give us a little insight. It's also all about vampires and other creatures of the night.
Yeah, what we can surmise from this is that clearly the game gives you two options. One is to play as part of the vampire lord, this sort of dominion. On the other is to play as the Dawnguard, which are clearly the guys who are stopping the vampires. So it looks like giving you two very diverse skill sets, two different ways to play.
And it'll also give you sort of a raft of new weapons. You've just seen like a crossbow there, and you'll get a load of new perks as a vampire and a shitload of new enemies like you just saw. So yeah, it's really exciting. It's a proper full-size expansion.
What else do we know about it? What insight can you give us at this stage?
Well, what's interesting is when the first image was leaked, a lot of speculation went round that they were going to use game mechanics first demoed in the Bethesda Game Jam.
Right.
That was back earlier in the year, and a lot of that has come to pass. So it's quite interesting that some of the abilities that were listed there and things that have come out since, like there was a PC patch that came out recently that listed the abilities that were named as Paired Vamp Feedback, Paired Vamp Feed Front, and a skill called Idle Mesmerizes. Now it's quite sensible to assume that they're going to be vampire abilities or vampire animations in the new thing. What was also, I thought, exceptionally interesting was that in the Bethesda Game Jam they talked about, and I've got to be careful how I pronounce this, a lycanthropy or werewolf skill set. Now that for me creates an interesting werewolf or vampire dynamic, which actually feeds in quite nicely to the broader, most popular thing of it's a bit like Twilight, except for you know, Elder Scrolls being Elder Scrolls would clearly not be that crass, but I think giving you that werewolf skill would be immense.
So how do you think the werewolf skill will fit into the kind of that vampire thing? I mean, will it be like you can be a vampire or a werewolf, or will the werewolves be some of the vampires kind of work alongside or against? Or
I couldn't entirely speculate, and there's something you could say that Skyrim players would know about how werewolves fit into the universe, but I don't know if that ranks as a colossal spoiler.
Right, okay.
It probably does.
It's a pretty big spoiler, yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to drop a colossal spoiler bomb, but if you've played a lot of Skyrim, you'll know about where they fit into the universe and the lore. This could be an expansion on that, and it might be like almost like a third tier, possibly.
Okay.
So, I mean, with this one as well, we still don't know exactly how big it is, and one of the big things about Skyrim is the size of the world. When they did the expansion pack for the last Elder Scrolls game, Oblivion, Shivering Isles was like an entirely new island. You sort of shifted you went onto a tiny island, shifted dimensions, and it was a whole new world. So we're not entirely sure how they're going to set Dawnguard up, because obviously it's going to be a new area, it's not going to be new parts of the same map.
Yeah.
Just looking at the trailer, the Vampire Lord says you found our fortress and you returned our daughter. Now, there's two possibilities for this in my mind. The first is quite simply that the fortress is somewhere in the north off the coast, because you see at the start of the trailer like it's going over water.
Yeah.
It'd be quite sensible to assume that. Further north you go, the darker it is throughout most of the year. Another possibility, though, is if you look at the lore on from Skyrim, you'll see that there's a sect of vampires native to Skyrim called the Volkihar. I think that's how you pronounce it. And they live under frozen, haunted lakes, very specific. And if you look a little bit later in the trailer, you see a dragon diving through a frozen lake.
Interesting.
So that could possibly be one way. What they may do is you may go underwater. There may be some sort of strange dimensional thing, and that's how you find their fortress. So I mean, we don't know. That it's speculation, but I'd say those are two very sensible pieces of speculation.
Yeah, and we don't know exactly in terms of like, you know, the breadth of the new locations, but what seems fairly clear to assume is that if we're getting like a Vampire Lord fortress, we're also going to get the Dawnguard fortress. We're getting 2 huge castle-based locations there. Something worth noting from the crossbow that's been identified as a new weapon. It looks, looking at the tip of the crossbow bolts, that looks like a modification on standard crossbows. At Bethesda Game Jam, they did discuss the possibility of having like customized bows, like fire and ice bows. Now, again, if you're fighting a vampire presence, you'd think you need more than like a standard glass or elven or really good strong arrow. So again, I'd imagine an ability to create or even to smith some sort of special brand of crossbow and or magical bolts.
Yeah, so that's very sensible. Yeah.
Also looking at, in the trailer, we see a guy. Mounted horseback combat was recently added in a new patch. Again, was at Bethesda Game Jam. You can see it in action in this trailer. At one stage, you see a guy who's basically glowing on a glowing horse. Now again, it looks like you've got some kind of super enchanted Dawnguard character. The crossbow he's holding, literally there, looks again like it's a really badass piece of vampire killing kit. Could be enchanted.
I mean, you do get like you get Shadowmare for completing the for completing some of the Dark Brotherhood missions. So, you know, spectral horses and things like that aren't necessarily new in this expansion. So also, you know, just to sort of add, you'll see near the end of the trailer he opens up a scroll, which
Yes.
I assume is the Elder Scroll he may be using to destroy the sun. We don't know. And there's 2 points marked on it. Now that looks like a map of Skyrim to me, specifically the Hold of Solitude. One mark on that map is an area where, again, in the main game you find a lot of these Skyrim specific vampires. The other is at the bottom of the river. I'm not entirely sure what the significance of that is. Perhaps that's where the Dawnguard fortress is. You know, it's just worth having a look and sort of speculating to see what you think that map represents.
Yep.
Okay, so as a final point, let's just give a little overview of what they're trying to do here. As I understand it, they're trying to wipe out the entire sun. Is that right?
Yeah, the Vampire Lord clearly has issues with the existence of the sun, so he's going to use an Elder Scroll which has liberty to erase the sun, we're led to believe. Again, it looks like a really great sort of self-contained, but this is probably going to be quite a lengthy piece of expansion DLC. We're hearing it's 1,600 Microsoft points. The DLC will be available. 1,200 Microsoft points.
So
I've just
pretty
oversold
good.
it.
Yeah.
And yeah, it will be available initially on a 30-day Xbox exclusive, but will be coming to PS3.